Good afternoon, everybody. You all settled? Great. Well, I'll introduce my partner Joel here in a second, but it's an honor to be here today, and that's amazed that this many people actually want to hear what I have to say, so that's great. I first had a presentation title in your thing that was called Less Beer and More Toilet Paper, was the original speech that I was going to give. So we actually changed it to something a little bit more purposeful. But just a little background on that title. When we first put Cohatch together, my first performa that I put together, we have free beer at all of our spaces. So our first space, I'm like, people are just going to drink me out of house and home a beer, right? So my budget line item was really high. But my toilet paper line item was really low. The reality of the situation is people don't drink much during the day, but we use a crap load of toilet paper. So it just goes to show you what you think you're going to do when you create your business really doesn't always end up the same way, and you just have to go with the flow. So that was the story behind that. But heading into this one, we're going to go over today building a company with purpose and give you a whole lot of unsolicited advice along the way. Every day, Joel and I wake up and with our partners to build Cohatch. Cohatch is a manifestation of us living out our purpose through building something we think that could help change the world and change people's lives. I don't want to get into a whole lot about what Cohatch is or really sell you on it, but I do think it is important to know kind of a little bit about it. We started under 3 years ago with a location in Worthington, Ohio, and today we've gone up to 10 locations in development. We have a location in 2 in Worthington, Polaris, Delaware. Upper Arlington opens next week, East in Dublin. We're doing one in Springfield, Ohio, Fairborn, and we'll be announcing other cities that we're going to. The number one thing that I attribute to success and the growth of Cohatch 2 is the fact that we're trying to build something with a very distinct mission that is way beyond just making money and building a company to make money out of. We want to build something that impacts people's lives and really changes communities around it. Our whole mission at Cohatch is to strengthen communities and improve lives. And really, we were very intentional with those words when we were building with Cohatch. Strengthening community. We truly want to impact physical communities. That's why we take over restored buildings and make them what they are into beautiful spaces that people could go to and work and also have other family time with. We truly want to build communities for nonprofits to thrive out of it. We want to build communities for creatives. We want to have communities for entrepreneurs to really strengthen the fabric of what they do. But we also want to improve people's lives. Notice we did not pick, like every other co-working company, we want to help you thrive at work, right? That's what a lot of people talk about, thrive at work. Whereas, don't get me started on this whole thing of like work-life balance. For some reason, people think that work is equal to the rest of your life, right? Work is there for a purpose to help you get out your talent and ability to change things and improve things, but it's not on equal platform. So by improving people's lives, we want to do it across the whole gamut of what matters to you. So for me, I'm 42, I have 3 kids. I love spending time with my wife. I enjoy more than anything spending time with my children on weekends, playing with them, going to their birthday parties, things like that. I love going on vacations with them as much as I possibly can because that time is very valuable. I also take a responsibility to try to take care of my health for my family, to get the most out of my talents and abilities and use all the gifts I've been given to change and improve things around me, but also serve other people. I think that we're all designed to touch other people's lives and to serve people. So at Cohatch, we wanted to build a company who could help enable people to live their ideal lives in that way. So that's what we do every single day, and I promise you as we get into this, when you work on something that you find your purpose and are that passionate about, there's no such thing as work. You wake up just fully energized and just really, really want to get after it every single day. So how did we get here? I'll introduce Joel in a second, but we come from 2 totally different backgrounds, right? And that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. We've been friends for 10 plus years or so, but I come from more of a traditional business background, so engineer, Miami of Ohio, Anderson Consulting, 21, 22, 23, getting laid off by Enron, which was one of the best things that's ever happened to me at that time period, and we'll talk about that. Going back to work at Honda, 60 hours a week building automotive plants, go and get my MBA at Fisher at night, graduating in less than 2 years and still taking 22 credit hours a quarter to make that happen. Getting my Six Sigma black belt, being a VP in a company at age 32, running a $200 million business unit for a company called Parker Hannifin, and then transforming that company and those plants into the most profitable in the whole company, and being asked to lay off a bunch of people because we were too efficient. That was my last day at that company. Ever since that point, I switched companies, and I went to a startup out of the UK called Velocys, owned by the largest shareholder, Roman Abramovich, who owns Chelsea Soccer Club, and getting really firsthand exposure into oil and gas and the whole different world that I did not like. So I really spent a lot of time trying to pivot and get out. And ever since I was 21 and 22, I've been noodling on paper. How do I create social enterprises? How do I use my talents to do different things? In 2008, I also had a side hustle. We built a lot of Snap Fitnesses in Columbus, all those 24/7 gyms, and we sold those. And then we parlayed some of that into we've owned Mesh Fitness in Bridge Park, Dublin. And that's where Joel probably worked with me the first time doing that. So that's my background heading into Cohatch, and I'll turn it over to Joel to give you his.
Thanks, Matt. Again, my name is Joel Limes. I am Matt's partner and one of the co-founders of Cohatch, and along with my very talented wife, we run the design and brand for Cohatch, as well as run our own small design firm called Brand Stamp that we started back in 2013. We've, along the way, in the last 6 years, worked with some really incredible clients and done some really great projects, and we're really proud of what we've done, even staying as small as we have. I come from a very creative family. My dad's a graphic designer. My mom could have had an amazing career making birthday cakes and making the coolest Halloween costumes that you've ever seen. She still does that to this day and turned it into kind of an epic thing now for her grandkids. I played sports in school, but my main focus when I was younger was art. Everything I did was about creating things and figuring out how things worked, and that ultimately led me to come to here. I graduated from CCAD with a BA in industrial design, and then from there went on to work for several design firms, some here in town, did a stint out west, and in the middle of that had a decent stint of working as a freelance designer. It's pretty amazing to see what this school has turned into since I've been here. This building wasn't here. Half these buildings weren't here when I was here. So that's a quick background on myself. As Matt and I kind of reflected on our careers and all the experiences we've had over the years, we wanted to put together some points to share with you guys. And first we put the number 10 on the page because it sounded good. And then realized whittling down to 12 was the best we could do. As Matt mentioned, early on in his career, he got laid off, and that's one of the significant things that we share early on is that I was also laid off. I was 27 when I was laid off, and you go through something like that, and you take a lot of learnings away from that. For me, one of them was it really pushed me to want to do something and start something on my own and work as a freelancer as successfully as I could make it on my own. But one of the things that we kind of shared that we took away together was that companies don't care about you, the people do. Not to say that the people inside those companies as a whole don't care about you, but really it comes down to companies. You're basically a number on a page for a company. When things go wrong, they look at the sheet and figure out who's going to get cut and move on. The real point on this is that, align yourself. If there's something within that company that feels off, or you're feeling unfulfilled in your job, it really comes down to there's an underlying thing that's probably your purposes don't align with that company. Even if you don't know what that purpose is, there's something there that feels off. There's something that you want to look into deeper on your purpose, and to really dig through what that could be. when you work for a company and that happens, it really becomes a kind of a swap for money for skills, and it's much more than that. So the real takeaway as a whole is really to find what that purpose is. You might not find it right away. It might take you a few iterations, but really to dig into what that could be and find people that share that same purpose, and work with them as a team. And hopefully they're a group that you can focus on that isn't based on the bottom line of money. Even though businesses, we understand that they have goals that are financial and all the things that come along with making a successful business. It's absolutely the way business is run. But if your purpose aligns and it's something bigger than money, it's really, that's the right step. You're going to find true enjoyment when it comes to that point. And that kind of leads me into this next point of really finding what that purpose is. It might take you a while to get there. If I could go back and tell my younger self that designing cool things for years and years and years really isn't going to make you ultimately happy and give you the drive that you want to keep moving. It's really about trying to find something that's deeper. In some cases, it's trying to help communities grow. It's trying to help the people inside those communities. And ultimately, if you can connect to something that aligns with that purpose, it's really going to help you find true enjoyment, and that drive will come, and that drive will be at a level that you've never experienced. And that's kind of what we experienced with Cohatch, is that we wake up every day excited to work on this brand and this company and push these things forward to grow it and turn it into what we really are striving to do.
So you'll see a lot of these points jump around. A lot of them link together, but one of the biggest points is build a great team with people that amaze you, and really focus on the word amaze, okay? So there's a whole lot of people that make a whole lot of mistakes. And if you look at companies and they have co-founders, they're really good at the same stuff. I don't get amazed at watching people do what I can do. Do you? I mean, do you get amazed when you watch people do what you could do? Now, when I watch what he could do, I just look at him, I'm gonna shake my head. I'm like, dude, I have no idea how you did that, how you and your wife did that, right? Now, he looks at me like the finance, the numbers, the growth, and he's like, just, dude, that's, amazing to him. So I really, really emphasize when you're building a team in a company and you go out on your own, or even inside, I just really value people that astonish you and amaze you. And when you find that, really figure out if there's a good overlap for your company and you in general. But I cannot emphasize enough, it's not kind of cool, I like what you kind of do, but when you're blown away with someone, get lunch with them, talk to them, maybe there's some overlap there. And I truly have that with my partner Joel and his wife Elizabeth and a few of our other ones. So my other partner Ryan's not here today, but I give him more crap than pretty much anyone on the planet, I think. But I'm amazed because he's great at what he does. He will walk into any room, any building, and start talking to somebody, introduce himself, network through the whole thing, find some weird overlap, and then bring him back to us and we start talking. That is pretty ambitious. I don't know a whole lot of people that can walk in a room and make those connections that quickly, but like, for all the pain he gives me, I tell him to his face, it's one of their greatest skills and assets, be able to do that as part of this team. So again, find people that amaze you. And then the other one is, I'm a big believer in painting a vision, okay? So if you can't articulate a vision of what you want and how you want it and what it's gonna be, how could you possibly expect anyone else to get on board, right? So Cohatch's vision is very large. We want to impact thousands of communities. We want to impact people, whether they're playing with their kids to working. We want people to have one membership to go to pretty much any vacation type of place that you want to go to, any office you want to go to. I want to buy I did yesterday, a 1981 Jeep Wrangler and park it out front. I've always wanted one, but I literally can't drive it very much. Here's the keys. If you're a member, go and use it, right? I want it to be a shared community of just about anything that you could possibly want inside of that, right? At the end of the day, though, the whole point is to do it to impact people's lives. So I'm very proud that we own, Coach now owns 11th Candle Company and needed help to grow. I could go and meet people that have been impacted by human trafficking and we're employing them now, right? So those are all the different things from nonprofits to social enterprises and folding them all together in this big, broad vision. Now, you could be starting a 2-person company. You should still be painting a vision, like working on it together. Make sure you map it out, be passionate about it, and sell it, and feel free to change it. The vision for Cohatch has probably changed every day and for 3 years, right? Just change it, but be convicted with what it is at the time, and feel free to be, one of my favorite quotes ever is just, feel free to be smarter today than you were yesterday, right? It's okay to change your damn mind. Just do it. You thought about it differently. Things change, things happen differently. So.
This point really is kind of a check your ego at the door kind of a point where people that know me know that that's not an issue with me. I've essentially been a silent leader over the years, working in the different roles I've done throughout the different firms. But it's really sitting down at a table or being in a room and realizing the people in that room that can help you grow as a person in your skills. But when you're talking about creating a team to start a business, it's recognizing who has that vision, the one that that Matt's referring to in the last point, and really let them do what they do. In the creative field, Elizabeth and I have learned so much about the business side and the operation side, and that truly affects the way that we think about creating these things that we do and putting different spins on it. But it all comes down to realizing the great leadership specifically that Matt has for our team, and just following it and really learning from it. It seems like a very simple point, but at its core, it's a very important one, especially when you're made up of a bunch of folks that essentially were leaders in their own right in their categories of business or creative or whatever it might be. This is a really cool trail. I've ridden this trail. It's a trail in Moab, Utah called Porcupine Rim. And it made me think about an analogy to something we talked about a while ago, and the idea of momentum as it relates to, I could talk a lot about momentum in the creative field and how you get into a creative groove and you want to ride that momentum and keep it going to create great stuff, but that's almost too easy. The momentum that I'm going to speak about a little bit is about something that I didn't know anything about, which is PR. And working on Cohatch, realizing that once you get that momentum with PR and get something out to the world and that people like it and are interested in it, don't slow down on the work to put more of it out there and keep it moving, because momentum is a real thing. And the idea is to ride it as long as you can and keep working on it, keep adjusting it. And I take it back to thinking about this trail where the ultimate rush and the ultimate goal to ride this trail was to ride it as fast and as smooth as possible to get that ultimate kind of rush when you're on it. And as it relates to PR and how we're doing PR, the idea is you put the work in to keep moving on this bike, and you make slight adjustments to keep your speed up, and you keep cranking and keep it going to get that full length. And it's a very equal analogy to the kind of the PR idea. You can stop at the end and take a look and check out the view about while you're on that trail, crank through it, and do what you got to do to make it as successful as possible. When you talk about making an emotional connection with the brand, this is a very specific point to the creative side of things for us. And when we create a brand or when we work on refreshing a brand, that emotional link is more important than anything when you talk about the longevity of someone grabbing a hold of what you do and wanting to be part of it. There's the emotional side of things that you try to connect to, and there's also the functional side. The functional side is the things that are operational, things that are tangible, things you can see on paper and the numbers and things that work in a very structured way. But when you talk about an emotional connection, it's the intangibles. It's the things that either specifically someone links to, or it's a combination of things that people will remember about your brand or your experience that you're building. And sometimes we talk about it as it's the not so secret sauce of a brand. And the idea is that, when you're making a recipe or a food and it's incredible and people love it, there might be a secret ingredient that you don't want to share that makes it what it is. But when you talk about a customer side of working with a brand, it's the not so secret sauce. It's the things that people talk about why they like things, or they can't put their finger on why they like something, but they just do. An example is when you think about Starbucks and how successful that brand's become, the idea that there's all these things that make up why people love it, whether it's great customer service, it's the experience that you have when you go in to drink your coffee. It might not be the best coffee in the world, but they innovate on coffee and they do things, and they try different things with product. But the idea that the emotional connection was something that it's really hard to replicate. So people try to knock off Starbucks and do different things, but they never can quite achieve it. It's really kind of that unachievable, that unrepeatable thing that's tied into the emotional connection. And that's why we really focus on nailing what those emotional aspects are to a brand. Because if you solve for just the functional aspects, no one's going to care about what you're doing. And this slide is, just as it says, it's kind of like a no-duh for us. It's kind of inherent to us that we put out our A+ work every time, as much as we can, if time permits, and it's things that we do go into the public, so we want to put out the absolute best that we can do at all times. And there's different scenarios for that timing and everything else, but we kind of live by, putting out the best work we can. And then that's where a little bit of the...
And I hate that one. So I believe in doing A- work faster. So there's a time for A+ work, and we have this tug of war naturally all the time. So they truly do A+ work. And to be honest, most people can't, right? I didn't say do for the A- work, I didn't say do B work or C work or B+ work. I said A- work, and he said A+, but how many people do A+ work realistically? I mean, if so, we'd all be 4.0 students and everything we possibly did. You might think you do A+ work, but that's why I battle with him constantly about there's a time for A+ work and getting it out there, building something, building a space where the cost of rework is ridiculously high, okay? There's some things you need to do A- work faster, where you don't really know. That last 10% to go from A- to A+ really sucks resources out. It really costs more money, it takes more time, and you really don't know if it's right. So I believe in A- work, getting it out there, and then continuously improving it, and not being an idiot and putting it out there. Once you put it out there, watch it, see how it does, evolve, modify it. But I think speed matters, speed in business matters. So our natural tension, that's why I make a good team, is he's always shooting for A+, and I keep yelling at him to do A- faster. So it makes a good team. And then I cheated again. I couldn't boil it down to 12. This is called rapid fire. Ready? Number 10, if I could find it. Grow through community and stay away from the two biggest money suckers. The two biggest money suckers of any business is labor and high rent. Use the gig economy, use freelancers, don't pay a shitload of rent. Use co-working spaces, other stuff. They'll kill you and suck your business dry. Warning, if you ever go out on your own, you'll still be really stressed out. The stresses will change. Instead of bitching about your boss at work saying he doesn't get it, he doesn't understand the company, he doesn't understand what we're trying to do, he doesn't appreciate me, he doesn't do any of those things. At the same token, have you worried about, when you're at that company, did you worry about making payroll this week? Did you worry about getting enough revenue to pay the bills and your people? Probably not. When you work for yourself, you might not be stressed because you can only blame yourself, but you are worrying about other things. So just a warning, when you do your things on your own, you'll still be stressed, the buckets will change, but at least you have control when you do it. And then this is one of the biggest ones for me, is find your source of energy and recharge, okay? So I could work at a really high level for a pretty good amount of time. Then I burn out just like everybody else does, and I have to get away for a week. And a lot of the people that work for me out in the audience know when I get back from vacation, they just stay away because it's like I'm recharged and I just start doling out a bunch of stuff to do. But whatever that is, make sure that you design a way to tap back in and recharge as a person to get your energy back up to where it needs to be. And everyone's different. Some people need a couple weeks, some people need 20 minutes, some people need whatever. But make sure you're cognizant of that because the stress will eat you up. And you want to be able to recharge and stay focused on what it is that you need to accomplish. The last 3 points, money isn't as hard as you think as long as you have your crap together, okay? ... as long as you have your crap together. Most people don't have their crap together. So I've been to a lot of pitches for startups. I've been to a lot of people asking for money, and they're terrible, right? They're really bad. Like, they're pitching to people and asking for money that have no money in the room, or they don't even ask for things at the end. So the worst case, watch some YouTube videos on really good pitches. Make sure you do it right. My favorite advice to people is I've never pitched. I actually don't like raising money that way. But start with, if I blow you away today, slide 1, if I blow you away and everything I do is just perfect and just it's great, raise your hand if you're willing to put in over 50 grand the next 6 months. And if no one raises their hand, the presentation's over. You're not there to entertain people. Like, that's what a lot of this stuff's about. Find who you're pitching to. I've raised a couple $1 million through Cohatch in less than a couple years, right? And it's about I know I go after philanthropic investors who want to see what we do and align with the vision of what we're doing, and I intentionally seek those people and only spend time with those people. This isn't a game. This isn't something to entertain, to go and get experience with. Get your crap together. There's billions and trillions of dollars out there if you do. Point number 2, this is probably one I'm most passionate about. It's like saying I say probably the most. Generosity grows, or greed kills and generosity grows. In life, in math, you could really only optimize one thing, right? So you have to choose between, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who are unbelievably greedy. They won't give up equity for anything, right? They're going to squeeze every dollar they can out of it. They don't want to give control up. And the opposite of that is almost like open sourcing. You have an unbelievably good concept, it's free to the world, and it grows that way. So to me, find a team that amazes you, be generous with what you do, and I'm trying to optimize Cohatch, and we're trying to optimize Cohatch to exist and to achieve its mission, not IPO, or not be a billion-dollar company. You can't do both, okay? And once you switch to the other, your mission will change automatically, all right? And the most important and the hardest one for me was this, is to get your mind right. It took me almost a year to do this. I was petrified with the fear of failure. I was making a ridiculously great living doing what I was doing before. I would actually, have you ever made up stories in your head? Like, I would go through this. I was better off than almost 99% of the world, right? I'm like, okay, so if I fail, ... worst case scenario, I starve to death and die in 8 months. I'm like, well, I'm like, how did I make that leap, right? So I'm also somehow in my head, what do the people think about if I fail? Like, and I was really worried about what other people thought. And my mind wasn't right to be an entrepreneur. So the best example, the best way I could kind of sum this up is, what really helped me is thinking entrepreneurship is like a video game, okay? So when I was a kid, I loved playing The Legend of Zelda. Beautiful gold disc, right? Gold disc, Nintendo, stick it in. I still remember the feeling of pushing the disc down, right? That's that connection of something. I always remember what it is. But no one asks me, if you play Zelda, it's a very large adventure game. You go in, you might get trapped in a corner, you might die, you might have to reset, you might have to find different tools to use, you might have to partner up with different team members, you might actually have to totally kill the game and start completely over again, right? But no one asks you when you solve the game, has anyone ever asked you how many lives did it take you, right? So it's not about how many lives that it takes you to do something, it's about that you're actually playing the game and you're using all of that ability to strategically think, grab tools along the way, and you're having a whole lot of fun doing it. I actually don't remember what happened when I solved the game. I have no idea what happened, but I do remember playing with my friends, having a good time, doing stuff I never would have done anyway, right? So that's the point to me. Think like that. It's not about failure. It's about trying and being creative at how you do it with the right teams of people. And the last thing I think is probably the most important point. In many games, I remember in my head this red heart, right, in Zelda. You collect hearts as you play video games a lot of times. It's just a staple of a lot of games. I like to think Cohatch I collect hearts along the way by helping people, right? So whether it be one person and one member, some charity or nonprofit, but it's helping people and gathering up all those hearts. So if you could remember that if you could play the game and collect hearts along the way and help a lot of people, you might actually wake up one day and realize that was the whole point of the game to begin with, helping people and finding your purpose doing it. So with that, thank you guys very much, and we'd love to answer any questions that you might have.